Hey there, it's Kevin from Prickly Pear Camera. I recently snagged these 2 boxes of camera gear for $225 at an online auction. It contained an unusual camera that caught my eye. We'll go through testing as well as market value of each item. Let's see if we can make it into some profit. You will not believe me when I tell you what the MSRP. The original MSRP when this camera was released was $3,000. This camera in used good working condition, camera body we're looking at roughly, look at that little guy. Oh, it's like a toy. It's a little toy. Toy camera. Okay, here we are with box number 1. And box number 1 has some Canon DSLR camera equipment in it. Okay, first camera is a Canon Rebel XTi DSLR camera. This is actually one of the best-selling cameras that I've sold. I've sold over 400 of these. I just looked it up the other day. And I think even more of the slightly older Canon Rebel XT. I've sold, I think, 650 of those. So this camera continues to this day to be a very popular first DSLR camera because of its budget price point. We'll test this here in 1 second, but normally you can find these for around $100 used. Got instructions. Ooh. What else we got in there? We've got, oh, cool. Wow, I did not see that in the auction pictures. I'll show that to you guys here in a second. See if there's anything else in these pockets. Nope. Nothing else in the pockets. Bag is now empty. So the thing I thought was cool was this Lensbaby. It's a Lensbaby 3G, and Lensbaby makes a lot of kind of cool tilt focus manual lenses for a lot of different cameras, including the Canon EF mount, which is what this is. So you can see it fixes on there. So I just replaced the 18-55 kit lens. A little bit limited in their practical use generally, but still kind of fun to mess around with. This little guy's gonna have a value of $50. Looks to be in good working condition. Now I need to find a battery for this. This camera is going to use the Canon NB2L or NB2LH battery. Got a charged one here. I use a lot of aftermarket batteries because these camera batteries, this is probably original to the camera. This camera was released like 13 years ago, I think. So lithium ion batteries don't last forever. So I'm gonna put the battery in real quick. Camera turns on. It is missing the side panel rubber door. Pretty common, especially if this camera was kept in more of a moist, humid environment, that rubber just kind of wears away with time. That will affect the value of this camera. So what we're looking for here is for the flash to pop. It sounds crisp when it fires, and when I zoom in and I look through the viewfinder, which is right here, if you were to look through the viewfinder and take a picture, I'm not seeing a whole lot of dust or debris that would be in the focus screen or perhaps even on the sensor. And so that saves some steps. So value-wise, we throw a charger, find a USB cable and a memory card for this. This camera uses compact flash memory cards, which is different than a traditional SD memory card. It's a little bit bigger. But anyway, like I was saying, a Canon Rebel XT in fine working condition like this is going to be worth about $110. So we'll put a value of $110 on this, on top of the Lensbaby lens. Lensbaby. Let's see what else we got in there. I saw this one on the auction page as well. This is actually a Canon EOS D30, which I haven't actually run across that often. This camera, as far as I'm aware, was released by Canon in the year 2001, and it's a 3 megapixel DSLR camera. You will not believe me when I tell you what the MSRP. The original MSRP when this camera was released was $3,000. That's in 2001 money. So with inflation and everything else today, you're looking at like, what, probably like $4,000, $4,500? It's insane. It looks a lot like the Canon EOS D30 in terms of size. It's a pretty beefy camera with a well-built grip. It's also missing the side panel rubber door, just like our last camera. These definitely came from the same area, maybe even from the same original user. Wish you could find out a little more about the provenance of these, but I mean, it's a solid camera. This thing is well built. So this camera, along with a lot of the early Canon DSLR cameras, uses the Canon BP511 battery. Let me see if I can open the battery door here. I happen to have a charged battery here. So we're gonna throw that in here and see if she turns on. And it does. It's flashing some stuff at us, but it does turn on, so that's a good sign. Yeah, this camera also uses a compact flash card for memory. Let's see if we can get a picture going here. Yep. Wow, that's neat. Methinks this camera definitely needs quite a bit of natural light. So condition-wise, we're looking at fair condition. Still has that side panel door issue like we were talking about. The lens autofocus is fine. So when we were testing the camera body, we were simultaneously testing the camera lens. And I was moving it in and out to see if there was any issues with judder or debris inside of the lens that would cause it not to open and close smoothly. Paired together, this camera and this lens, we're looking at right around probably $100. Cool camera. Okay, and the third piece that was inside of that first box is inside of here. We have a Canon Rebel XSI DSLR camera. This is a 12.2 megapixel camera, released also a few years after the Rebel XT and XTi. Sold hundreds of this camera as well. And the lens that's on here is a Canon Nifty 50mm 1.82 lens. This is a very widely used lens. It's been around for quite a long time. Getting phased out a little bit by the Canon EF 50mm STM lens, which I've also used and I really like. Let's see, there's a little bit of dust in there. Let's see. What you'll often see with this particular lens is you'll see a lot of dust or debris inside of the lens. And I don't know if it's inherent because of the production of the lens. But I see more dust in this lens than really most of the other 50mm and 24mm lenses that I sell. So this camera uses the Canon LPE5 battery, which is going to be this guy. And I'm going to have to go over to my little battery supply, pick us up a battery, and I'll be back in just a second. Baby, baby, baby. My wife and I have been watching a new show called Daisy Jones and the Six, and there's a song in that show that is just stuck in my head. It's been stuck in my head for 2 days. Don't you hate it when you get songs stuck in your head? I can't shake them easily. So I brought two batteries over, two Canon LPE5 batteries over just in case. And we will throw one in there. Oh, it has a memory card inside too. Woo! 8 gig card. That one did not turn on. And that one did. That's why I always try to get two batteries just in case. Because a lot of the times the batteries that I'm reusing have varying charges left on them, especially if they're original to the camera. Okay, looks good. Yep, autofocus is working fine. Lens is fairly smooth. Cool. Rubber actually holds on this one, so this is what the other camera should have had, a rubber door like this with a little rubber hinge on it that will allow it to open and close, so it's not always exposed to the elements. So that one does have this. LCDs and kind of got some scratches on it. This camera in used good working condition camera body, we're looking at roughly $100. The Canon Nifty 50, we're looking at a used price of around $60. So put them together and we've got a used value of right around $160 on this. So that was it for the first box, and now we're gonna jump into the second box. Kind of working with limited space here. The second box is right on the ground right down here. I'm gonna go ahead and open it, and I'm gonna pull from the box and put it on the table here. Okay, the first thing that I see, I'll pull it out. We got a Nikon DSLR camera bag. All right, lens bag. Nikon 55 to 200 millimeter. Sold many of these, in the hundreds for sure. This was often sold as a kit with this particular camera, which is the Nikon D60, which I think is either 8 or 10 megapixel camera. I've sold hundreds of these as well. So the Nikon D, yeah, this was probably all originally sold as a kit, maybe even with the bag and came in a big box. And now it's just, we've got the bag and the kit lens and the 55 to 200 millimeter. So this camera is fairly equivalent to something like the Canon Rebel XSI that we were just looking at, and also one of Nikon's best-selling DSLR cameras at the time, kind of a budget entry-level DSLR camera. I believe it came after the Nikon D40 and D50. So outwardly, cosmetically, this appears to be in quite good condition. It's also got a 2 gig card. I'm gonna try turning it on. It doesn't turn on. See if there's a battery inside. There is a battery inside. And I have a battery for this as well, which is the Nikon EL9 battery. Does turn on. Whee! So that's good. It's definitely a good start. Definitely a good start. I got so much stuff in here. Okay. Let's see if it takes a picture. I'm gonna go ahead and format the memory card. That's what I generally do whenever I see a memory card inside of a camera. Just get rid of everything that's on there. Okay, flash fires. Flash fires. So the focus adjustment on this camera is actually going to be right here by the viewfinder. So if you're looking into it and you're like, hey, the pictures look all blurry. Well, it could be that the manual focus on the lens isn't working, or the viewfinder itself needs to be adjusted. You can do that there. This is also missing the little rubber viewfinder cap, which isn't a big deal. I have some of those as well. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so we tested the 18 to 55 millimeter VR lens and it's working. And now we're gonna test this lens. One thing I noticed is that the rubber manual focus dial, which is right here, is pretty tacky or sticky. And I have a rubber polish that I use that kind of gets rid of the stickiness and the tackiness for the most part. So I'll go ahead and do that as well. It doesn't really affect performance, and it's just a little bit tacky. But that's something you would want to disclose if you were to sell it in this condition. So the first thing that I do when I'm testing an autofocus lens is make sure it's set to autofocus, because that's what we're testing. And then vibration reduction, you can test it on and off and see if that's working as well. I'm going to start with it off and autofocus on. Yep. And vibration reduction is on. Sometimes you hear a little bit more noise with that. Yep. Looks good. So the next thing that I'm going to do, and the next thing that I'm going to do with this camera is actually remove the memory card. And we're going to take the memory card over to the computer, and we're going to go to a program that will look up the shutter count for this particular camera. So that way when I go to list it, and I'll probably list it on eBay, you can call out the shutter count both in the title and the description and give people an idea of the overall use of this camera. Because this camera I think can shoot up to maybe 80 or 100K pictures, which is a lot. A lot of the newer DSLR cameras or the big workhorses like the Canon 60s or the Nikon, you know, D500s, those big guys, those can shoot hundreds of thousands of pictures. Nikon only certified the shutter life of these, I think, to 80 or 100K, but leave a note in the comments if you've looked it up recently. So the value of this lens, since the lens is working well, this Nikon to 55 to 200, the value of this guy is going to be right around $60 in used good condition. So this Nikon D60 camera with the 18 to 55 millimeter lens is going to be worth right around $125. Okay, pulling out the next thing from the box. Film camera. I saw this in the listing picture as well. This is a Minolta Maxim 3, which is a 35 millimeter film camera, and this has a big 75 to 300 telephoto lens on it. Cosmetically, everything looks to be in pretty good condition. The flash head is popped up a little bit. You see that a lot with Sonys. The lens fits on nicely. The zoom, the barrel moves in and out smoothly. There's actually a roll of film inside. That's crazy. And it uses two CR2 batteries, which are these tiny little guys. And I happen to have two. So I'm gonna go run to my little battery supply and go grab them real quick. Oh, I just found the lens the kit lens. I just found the kit lens that it goes to. I was walking by to get the battery, so it was in the box already, so I'm just gonna pull that out and we'll go through all that together. Got the two new CR2 replacement batteries there. Those guys are gonna go in the trash. I'm gonna put them in. They just go in the bottom here. So slide them in there. Make sure you put them the right way. It's one thing about doing this for so many years. I've been buying and selling used cameras and camera equipment now full-time for about close to 7 years now, which is hard to believe. But I get used to actually following directions on camera instructions. And it's probably helped in my actual life as well. Made me a little more patient. Okay, so it's set to off. And we're gonna go ahead and flip it to on. Whoa, lens engaged. Power's on. Thought this camera would probably work fine because the condition looks quite good. But we will go ahead and give it a shot. Flash is set to on. There we go. Nice. And like I was mentioning before, when I was looking for a battery for the camera, I ran across this when I just happened to look down in the box on what was left inside of the box, which is the kit lens, which is a 35 to 80 millimeter lens. So this is the lens that it came with originally. So we'll throw that on the body. And the way you put this on is by aligning the red dots together. That's how most DSLR or SLR cameras with interchangeable lenses work. Also engaged. Nice. Okay, camera's working well. So this camera, the Minolta Maxim 3, in used good condition with new batteries on the market today, is going to be worth right around $50. And this Minolta 75 to 300 millimeter lens will work with any Sony Alpha SLR or DSLR camera as well. So this works with a wide variety of cameras, and I've actually just sold one of these very recently for right around $50. You might get up close to $60 for this, but I think $50 is a fair price. So $50 for this and $50 for this. Let's see what else we got. Okay, this was the white box that I saw earlier. And this is just a cheapy little guy. Polaroid IEX29. Very inexpensive camera with no battery. No battery. Okay. I'll see if I have a battery for that later. If this camera is in working condition, it'd probably be worth a whole $10. Okay. Fujifilm Instax Mini 8 instant film camera. This is very popular camera style for people that do scrapbooking or need family pictures. They use Fujifilm's Instax film, which is a cartridge that looks like this. This one's empty, so there's no film inside. But the cartridge goes inside of the camera like that. Pop it in. This camera uses 2 AA batteries. Here we go. And then to open the lens, you just hit this little button here. Whee! And then the light should turn on the camera if it's working. There's a red light flashing down here, which is a good sign. And you'll see the lights move around there, and then once it's done, it should remain fixed. And it is. And let's just try taking a picture. Flash fires. There's no film in there, so nothing will pop out, but the picture would actually come out at the very top here. Just pop right out of there. So, decent cosmetic condition. I've sold many of these over the years. Without film, you're looking at a value of right around $30 on this camera. I don't think we have much left here. Oh, gosh. There's one in every group, isn't there? This is a very cheap plastic looking kind of imitation of maybe some sort of waterproof action camera. Look at that little guy. Oh, it's like a toy. It's a little toy. Toy camera. Oh, it has a it uses a micro SD card for memory, and it does have a charging port. Let's see if it turns on. This thing just, it's kind of like, I had a video that I posted that had a camera that was like the granddaddy of this, that was like this big, that felt like this. This is just kind of laughable as to how horrible it feels. Can't believe it actually takes a picture. Probably is completely digital zoom. Bye-bye. But, wow, 32 gig memory card. Wonder if that's real. 32 whole gigs there. Okay. So I'll have to test that. That'll be fun to kind of mess around with. No value on this little gem. But we did get a 32 gig, potentially, micro SD card out of it. Okay. Oh. Some more random camera equipment here. I've got a Canon flash 244T. Looks dicey. It's got acid everywhere. No, it doesn't even open. So if this flash was actually working and tested and there wasn't battery corrosion, we'd be looking at a value of probably around $10 on this, but this one is broken. Also have a cool lens here. This is a Sears vintage 35mm camera lens. Actually decent, kind of cool to mess around with manual lenses for older film cameras, and you can get adapters and end up using them on digital as well. This Sears 28mm, if it is for Canon, I'll find out, is going to be worth right around, we'll call it $25 on a conservative side. So $25 for this lens. What else we got? What else we got? Okay, this is the last stuff in here. The last stuff. 2 more big lenses. Canon FD mount Vivitar 80 to 200mm zoom lens. Big guy. Let's see how it looks optically. Looks decent on the front and decent on the back. Normally with these aftermarket like Vivitar style zoom lenses, what I'll do is wait until I've accumulated a few, put a lot together, and end up selling for $5 or $10 a piece. So just for this exercise, I'm gonna give this lens a value of $5. This is a Sears 70 to 210mm lens. This is the last item in the box. And this has some issues with the grip in terms of rubber peeling. So I'm gonna have to take a look at this one a little bit further. If it does end up working, I'd probably put it in a lot. I'm not gonna assign any value. Thanks for joining me on that ride. It was really fun. I really enjoy doing that. It's a big part of my day is going through inventory, taking a look at and using the EOS D30 that originally retailed for $3,000, which is just still blows my mind. So $775 in value, including this cool EOS D30. Paid $225 for everything. Once you factor in all of the expenses for the various platforms that I would sell these on, as well as the shipping costs, the packaging costs, the cost of batteries and supplies, I would anticipate maybe making a net profit on this overall order of probably somewhere around $300, which is definitely good. My target is roughly doubling my money. Because it takes me time to test all of these, you saw that process wasn't exactly fast. And a lot of research went into even trying to find the right thing to purchase in the first place. So definitely pleased with this order. Take a look here for another video if you haven't checked it out, an unboxing video. I really appreciate you watching. And if you found it useful or helpful or interesting or funny, please consider liking and subscribing. Really means a lot. Until next time, happy shooting.